Jesus gave the keys of the kingdom to all the 12 apostles, not simply to the apostle Peter. So the Catholic claim that Peter was the sole head of the Christian church and somehow the Bishop of Rome is his successor is just fallacy. Now, I want you to take a look at the very passage the Catholic Church uses to try to prove this. It's in Matthew chapter 16. Jesus says in verse 19, I will give you, he's talking to Peter, the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. So from that passage, Catholics say, you see, Peter was given exclusive right to the keys. But here's my question. Why is Jesus giving keys, plural, of the kingdom? Not one key. For if Jesus intended Peter to be the sole leader of the church, he would have said, I give unto you the key of the kingdom of heaven. One key. You see, when I travel abroad, let's say I'm preaching in a country and I'm by myself, my wife's not with me, the desk clerk hands me one key only because it's just one person. But when I travel with my wife, you know what the desk clerk hands me? Two keys. I take one and I give it to my wife because they notice there's more than one person that's going to need to unlock the hotel room. Jesus is giving keys, plural, of the kingdom. And he intended these keys to be distributed equally to all 12. Now, let me prove this to you in the context of the scripture. Notice what the keys do. They bind and loose. Now, keep that phrase in mind, bind and loose. And then jump to chapter 18, where the disciples are asking Jesus a question. Verse 1, at that time, the disciples came and asked, who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? So now Jesus is going to address all the apostles. Now watch what he mentions to them in Matthew 18, verse 18. Truly I tell you, that's all 12, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loose in heaven. The same language that is used to speak of the keys as binding and loosing, he gives them to all 12. Now our Catholic friends will say, well, no. Yes, the apostles had the power to bind and loose, but that's not the same as the keys. Keys are different. Friend, that's a distinction without a difference. Because if the keys give the power to bind and loose, and Jesus then describes what the keys do and says to all the apostles they have this power, then it shows you that the keys, plural, was meant to be given to all the apostles. In addition to that, we're told in the New Testament, Paul writes in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 21, he says the church is built on the foundation of the apostles, plural, not just one apostle. And then in Revelation 21, John has this vision and he sees 12 foundations. And on the 12 foundations are the names of the apostles of the Lamb. So if I stand on one foundation, I stand on them all. You see, Jesus never intended one person to have authority over all the bishops. No, rather the keys of the kingdom were given to all. In fact, in early church history, we don't find anyone making this claim to one leader until several centuries after the establishment of Christianity. And you have to wonder, if no one's even talking about Peter being the head of the church and the Bishop of Rome, why aren't we seeing any mention of it for several centuries? It's because it was never a belief until one day a Bishop of Rome claimed that belief, but it wasn't the belief of Christians. None of the creeds have any description or any saying of Peter. In fact, none of the creeds even mention Peter. Never mention the keys of the kingdom. Never mention that there was supposed to be only one Roman church. In fact, Roman is not even mentioned in any of our creeds. See, this was brought up because the Bishop of Rome wanted to make this claim to make the other bishops submit. But to me, that's an arrogant claim. And of all the sins of the Catholic Church, I would say this is the greatest of all. Because it's an arrogant claim that one single bishop is head over all other bishops. And that is plain wrong. It's not supported in the Bible, and it's not supported in early Christian history.